Hello everyone, back tuning into today's third and final video. So we're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days. For today's third and final video to take us into the second week of April. Of course, and talking of April, we've released the April 2019 month-ahead forecast. So have a look at that. We're going for slightly milder than average month and a rather dry month as well, with quite a lot of high pressure around. We've also released the ECMWF 30-day update, so that one takes more or less the end of April as well. That's for the UK and the Europe too, and it looks like it's going to be a bit up and down with temperatures, but overall nothing too dramatic after a fairly chilly start though for the first week. So I'll get on with the third and final video for you right now. We're going to begin by having a look at the Central England temperature. It is finally in. It's been a little bit late updating Hadley, but they have got it updated now. So this is the CET page at GAS Weather. It's got all of the monthly CETs going back to 1659. We scroll down to the very latest year, to 2019, there it is, and we can see that we actually came out at 7.8 for the Central England temperature for March 2019. So not much of a downwards correction this month. I think just 0.1 of a degree downwards correction. Very mild month. That's over 2 degrees above the 61 to 1990 average. And it's over a degree above the 81 to 2010 average as well. 81 to 2010 average just there is 6.8. So it's around 6.6, I should say. So it's around 1.2 degrees above 81 to 2010. And nearly 2 degrees above actually 5.7, 6.7, 7.7, yeah, so it's just over 2 degrees above 61 to 1990. So very mild month indeed for March 2019. We're still waiting for the UK-wide temperature and rainfall stats to come in for March. When they get updated at UK Met, then we'll be bringing you those. But certainly it has been a very, very mild March indeed. Well, this is how the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles are looking for Manchester today. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Manchester. Starting off a bit colder than average at the moment. The next couple of days are going to be fairly chilly, but as we go through the end of the week into the weekend, it looks like temperatures are recovering to some degree anyway, becoming milder, and then after that just generally staying very close to the long-term average. There's a bit of scattering there though as we're going through the second week of April. Most of the GFS ensemble members are favouring milder than average conditions, but there are a few that are a bit colder there through the second week of April. Overall though, I think this is a relatively, once the next few days are out way anyway, relatively mild conditions as we go through the second week of April and up to the middle part of the month. Precipitation wise, maybe this is for Manchester, so it's one of the wettest places in the country, so quite a bit of precipitation coming up over the next few days. So that could be a little bit wintry as well, of course, as the air is going to be fairly cold. But as we get through to the weekend and to next week, yes, there are some precipitation spikes, but for Manchester, that's a relatively dry ensemble, really. So I think things will be drying out quite a bit as we go through the weekend and into next week as well. Temperature anomalies from the 2nd through to 10th of April, generally a little bit below average for the UK and for Ireland. Most parts of Western Europe are also coming out a little bit below average. Precipitation anomalies from the 2nd to 10th of April, average to maybe a little bit above average for some areas. So it's going to be unsettled in the next few days. I would expect these charts to show a drying and warming trend over the next few days, but certainly from the 2nd to the 10th of April, it does look as though it's going to be fairly chilly and quite cool as well. This is how the GFS is looking for Friday then. So by Friday, low pressure is starting to be moved out into the Atlantic. As it does so, it starts to pull up this less cold or milder southerly to southeast wind. Over the weekend, the high pressure over Scandinavia takes over. And that's quite a big blocking feature, actually. It extends from Scandinavia all the way over towards Greenland. It pulls the winds into the east, but there's no real legacy of cold air now sitting to our east. If this had been a month or two ago, then that would have been a bitterly cold east. It would have dragged in snow from the Urals. But of course, we've lost all of that, or most of that reservoir of cold air has sort of drained away over the past month to 6 weeks. And so it will be chilly on the east coast, I would have thought, but the central western areas probably not too bad, really, especially if you can get a bit of sunshine. Into next week, we just keep this high pressure blocking to the north, so very extensive northern blocking there from Scandinavia to Greenland. As I say, these would have been absolutely classic charts if this had been 2 or 3 months back. But the low pressure in the Atlantic is being kept at bay in the Atlantic, which just leaves us mainly dry and probably relatively mild air for the west anyway, eastern areas, with the air coming off the North Sea, always a bit cooler there. Right, we're up to day 10, which is Friday the 12th of April, and the high pressure is still there to the north of Scotland, still bringing in this east to southeast wind. The wind is turning a lot more southeasterly in nature there, so the air is starting to move up from southern Europe, so that is turning things mild, and that will probably lift temperatures into the mid-teens Celsius away from the east coast. And then we just keep this high pressure blocking as we go through into the middle of April into the extended range. This is Sunday, 14th of April, still with that high pressure centred over Iceland, still bringing in these easterly winds, but not particularly cold easterly winds either. Right at the very end of the GFS run, which gets us to Thursday the 18th of April, just some signs that the high pressure begin to slip southwards into the UK. But it's a prolonged spell of dry weather, really, this, that the GFS 6 o'clock run was going for. Very anticyclonic indeed, and becoming increasingly mild, I think, up to the middle part and then into the second half of the month. Temperatures certainly into the mid-teens Celsius, if not maybe a bit higher by the time we get through to there, the 18th of Thursday. That's Maundy Thursday, of course. So won't be very long at all now before Easter updates will begin at Gavswavits for another year. This is how the GFS parallel run is looking, and again we've got these winds coming up from a southerly to southeasterly direction as we go through to Friday as a low pressure slips wave. Then into weekend wind turns easterly, probably quite chilly for the east, but shouldn't be too bad temperature wise for the west. Into next week again, the high pressure continues to block up to our northeast, so it looks pretty dry really through most parts of the country. And eventually through the course of next week, temperatures will start to lift up as well as the wind goes into a southerly to southeasterly direction. We've gone beyond day 10 and we've still got this big area of high pressure to our north, still bringing in winds from an easterly direction. Low pressure is having a go at coming in from off the Atlantic. That could be bringing some showery rain in towards the south and the southwest. And in a very extended range, we do start to pull down some colder air from the north and the northeast and as we move up towards east. Only temporarily though. That's how we finish up by Thursday, the 18th of April, with that high pressure slipping down over the UK, cutting off any northerly supply. That does turn things a little bit colder there, just into the second half of April, but it's a long way off. I wouldn't necessarily be overly concerned about that. And then finally got the ECMWF finally for the charts. We've got the ECMWF down to our southwest. We're bringing up those southerly winds, so it should turn a bit less cold at the end of the week and into the weekend. High pressure takes over to our north, turns the winds into the east as well, so lots of dry weather continuing into next week. There could be some showery rain at times down in the south from these little areas of low pressure, but I wouldn't think precipitation will amount to too much next week. That's how we look as we go through to the extended range. I mean, we're really blocked there. We've got a proper Greenland high going on. But just not quite pulling in the winds from a northerly direction, so still relatively mild, probably still with some showery bursts, but that's really blocked conditions. And as I say, if this had happened just a couple of months ago, we would have really been in for a proper spell of cold weather there with that extensive Greenland blocking. But as it is, it's April and just not quite right to pull down that cold air from the Arctic. This is how the scenarios are looking with the postage stamps from the UK Met today. So these are the scenarios that are on the table for day 10, and there's only one really scenario that we got here. 51 out of 51, 100% of ECM ensemble members, including the control and operational run, has high pressure in control sitting to the north of the country, so it's centred around Greenland and Iceland. Low pressure is underneath it through the middle of the Atlantic, and the winds are coming around the top of that high pressure in that sort of direction. So it could be chilly, particularly for eastern parts of the country. Wind is still coming in from the northeast, but I don't think there's any particularly cold source of air moving down on the eastern side of that area of high pressure. But it is pretty dry. That's the main thing there. And as we go through to 2 weeks away, which is the 17th of April, 360 hours away, two scenarios really. So we've got 30 members of the ECM ensembles that have a trough of low pressure over to the east of the country. So those are a little bit more unsettled, maybe a bit colder as well, possibly bringing the wind in from the north to northeasterly direction around that trough. And then there's 21 members, including the ECM control run, that has high pressure to the west of the country. So that's a more settled scenario. The wind is probably from a northwesterly direction with those. I wouldn't have thought that's overly cold, and it is mainly dry with that high pressure blocking off the Atlantic. I think this could turn out to be quite a notably dry April, despite the fact we're starting off on quite an unsettled note. Finally, we'll just have a look at the CFS V2. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. The first weekly period will take us from the 2nd to the 8th of April. The coming week, trough of low pressure extending in from the Atlantic into west of Europe. The jet stream's on a bit of a southerly track as well. So it looks rather cool and rather unsettled, really, in the next week. But then we go through to week 2, and it's all changed. It's the 9th to the 15th of April. With a big area of above average height sitting just to the north and northeast of the country, with bring winds in from an east to southeasterly direction. And so a lot of dry weather on offer with that, and relatively mild conditions as well, particularly in the west where we've got shelter from those easterly winds. Week 3 is the 16th to 22nd of April, and we have above average heights to our west-northwest there, below average heights to our east and southeast. That could be a bit colder. That might be bringing in more of a sort of north-northeasterly flow. So that could be a bit colder, actually, that week. It just depends how much Atlantic air is moving around the top of this ridge. But possibly that's a bit colder from the 16th to the 22nd of April. And then week 3, that looks better. It's the 23rd to 29th of April. And this one has above average heights then just to the west of Ireland. The flow is going to be westerly, but we're close to a ridge, so it should be relatively mild. The wind's coming in off the Atlantic, and with high pressure just to our west, I would have thought that's pretty dry and quite spring-like as we run up to the end of April. So it's all looking rather samey really, compared to what we've been talking about in the past few days. High pressure is going to be taking over after this unsettled start to April. High pressure will be blocking to our north and northeast, which means the winds will be coming in from the east. It's a good job it's not a couple of months ago, or it's bad luck, it's not a couple of months ago, depending on what you want from your weather. A lot of people watching this do want cold weather in winter, of course. If this had happened a couple of months ago, we would have been talking about a big freeze with these charts, no doubt about that. But it's April, so there's no legacy of cold air to tap into with these easy winds, and so therefore temperatures will probably be relatively mild in the west where we're sheltered from the easy winds. In the east it probably will feel quite chilly, quite dismal, depending on how much sunshine we get. I think the emphasis probably is going to be on pretty dry weather again as we run up to the middle part of April. It doesn't seem to matter how often we turn the weather unsettled at the moment. We did have quite a prolonged run of unsettled weather through the first half of March. That was our longest run of unsettled weather since sort of spring last year. But again, it's only a couple of weeks. It seems like whenever the weather goes unsettled, we repeatedly keep getting ourselves back to high pressure, and it's a repeating pattern. I'm not sure the pattern is all that dissimilar to the one that gave us the hot summer last year. And if this keeps going on, if this repeated blocking high pressure pattern continues into the summer, then we will have to think about a hot and dry summer here. Early days on this, it's only April, but if we keep getting these areas of high pressure, particularly centering themselves over Scandinavia, we may find ourselves going into a very warm and dry summer pattern once again. We should wait and see on that, but it is very noteworthy that no matter how unsettled it gets, the unsettled weather is never able to sustain itself at the moment, and we do keep repeatedly going back to these areas of high pressure. We shall wait and see. But anyway, that's it for today's videos. We'll be back tomorrow with the 5-day forecast. We'll also have another look at the weather next week to 10 days as well. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.